Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayla. Today I'm going to show you how to create a natural complexion with a very subtle contour. Let's get to it. First part of my routine is to cleanse the skin, so I just use a face wash and just rinse with some water. And then I'm going into my skincare routine, which first starts with a toning spray. So I have the Mario Badescu facial spray with aloe, sage, and orange blossom. Helps to just hydrate the skin right before you start applying your other skincare items. Ideally, you want to start with the thinnest texture in your skincare routine to then the thicker. So this one is just a spray water, and then next I'm going into my serum, which is a little bit more oil based, and this is the Lancome Genifique, which is a anti-aging serum. You can use it for morning or nighttime throughout your other skincare products as well. And I'd like to do about 3 drops of this, and then just press it into your skin. And I always press it into my skincare so that I'm not stretching my skin, and I'm making sure it goes right into the pores. The serum is good for all skin types, and it helps to really just create a plump texture for the makeup application and to make it look more skin-like. The next step is to go in with an eye cream, and I use the Origins Ginseng eye cream, which is great for daytime because it helps to brighten up underneath the eye instantly with a little bit of a pearlescent effect. I do about a rice grain amount on my ring finger, and then tap it underneath in the eye socket and then into the brow bone. And this helps with brightening and depuffing, and also prevents fine lines and wrinkles. While I let my skincare set in, I'm just going to go in with some Vaseline for my lips so I don't neglect that area. Okay, once your skincare is settled, you can then go in with a primer if you feel the need. I don't always use a primer, but when I'm wanting a more natural finish to my makeup, it's better to use a pore blurring primer so that you don't have to use as much makeup. So this one's the Hourglass Mineral Primer. It's called Veil, and it's oil-free and also has an SPF of 15. So I just use one pump, and I really only apply it where my pores are more prominent. So I have it over my nose, my chin, and my forehead, so more like the T-zone area. This is probably one of my favorite primers because it's so thin, but it really just blurs and creates a really smooth canvas for your makeup. Okay, next step is to brighten the areas on the face that might have discoloration or darkness. I'm using the LA Girl Pro Conceal in shade light yellow, and I'm just going to highlight underneath my eyes and above the mouth, chin, and forehead. I'm going to use a wet sponge for this application. This is a color corrector, so it helps to cancel out any light blue under eye darkness or more like blue purple color. If you have a darker blue darkness underneath your eye, then I would suggest using more of a peach or orange tone, especially if you have a darker skin tone. Or if you have more of a gray undertone under your eyes, I would suggest using a reddish color corrector, red brick kind of color. And that won't necessarily brighten, but it will help to cancel out the darkness first. And then you can use a brighter concealer on top of that if you want a highlighting effect. So I'm just brightening up more of the center of my face, and I do this before I go in with my contour shades, because when you start to highlight, it starts to actually show where the natural shadows will be casting for your cheekbones and around the forehead and so on. The palette that I use for contouring is my Graftobian concealer palette, HD Glamour Cream Super Palette in neutral, and it has concealer shades, but it also has more warm and cooler tones for contouring, and it's really good for pretty good range of skin tones. Not all of them, but you get a really nice option here. I'm gonna go in with my fingers for this because the warmth of your skin will help to create a more malleable texture for when you're blending in your contour. I'm going in with these two colors here, so I can get a nice in between, like a cooler gray tone. And you want to start right at the top of your ear here, and then press it right underneath where you feel your cheekbone. And then you're going to want to end right at where the edge of your eye is. Don't worry about blending because we're going to use the sponge applicator to blend this right into the skin. And when you're pressing this in initially, you want to curve this line upwards instead of down. This will create an uplifted cheekbone instead of more of like a masculine sunken in cheek. Then if you feel the need to contour any other part of your face, you can. For instance, for me, I want to create more of this oval shape, and I have a lot of space up here, so I'm going to use my contour shade to kind of close this and shape this out. And then I'm just going to apply a little bit on the sides of my nose. And a little bit onto the crease of your eye just to give a little natural shape back there if you put your color corrector or concealer up on your lid. Okay, next thing I like to do is, although this is already wet, if you need to rehydrate it, you can actually use your toner. And then it'll help to blend out the contour a little bit. Okay, once the contour is more blended, you can go in with your foundation of choice, and I use the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation. This is kind of like a medium coverage foundation, and it has more of a skin-like finish as opposed to a dewy or matte finish. And I start with one pump at a time, and we'll start with the areas that I need the most coverage. So I usually start at the center of the face, and then I'll blend outwards and start to blend this contour into the foundation so that it has no defined lines. If you just want to blend and not apply any more foundation, you can flip your sponge over and then just press on top, and it actually will help to also remove some of the excess foundation that you may have applied. And this creates more of a natural finish as well, so you don't over apply anything. Since we already highlighted with our color corrector, I'm not applying any more concealer, but if you feel the need to brighten up any more areas of the skin, you can go in with your concealer that's 1 to 2 shades lighter and just highlight those areas that you want to accentuate. For me, I'm going to go into the blush before I start applying any sort of powder on top of the skin, because my blush is a cream base, and you always want to start with any liquids or creams before you go into powder so that you don't get any cakiness. I'm using another color corrector actually as my blush because it's more of a peach tone, and this actually shows up on my skin tone as peach, so I really like it as like a natural kind of summery color. So I use my sponge, and I'm just going to start right above where that contour line is on the edge of my eye, and then sweep it up into the hairline. I feel that liquids or creams are best for creating a natural finish because it will get absorbed into your skin a little bit nicer, and no one's skin is completely flat, more of a skin-like or dewy texture, and then you can go in with a powder to mattify any areas that you feel are too shiny. So even if you have oily skin, sometimes starting with a liquid or cream will be best, just so you don't get too cakey with your makeup. And then you can go in and touch up any areas you need to mattify later. So when my skin naturally gets flush, it's not just on the highest points of my cheekbones, it actually runs a little bit down throughout my cheeks. And so if you want to create more of a natural finish, you can emphasize your natural flush in that way. So I start on top of the cheekbone and then I'll gradually bring it down slightly. So now we can go into setting the areas that might get a little bit of excess oil. I use the Laura Mercier Candle Glow Sheer Perfecting Powder in shade 1. And I love this powder because it's not mattifying, it still has that sheen to it that creates a skin-like texture. But it does help control your natural oils. And I like to just apply this on my nose, my forehead, and my chin. So wherever you find that you get oily, you can add to that area. If you don't get oily, then there's no need to go through this step. You can always use a setting spray instead of a powder just to make your makeup last longer. Also apply a little bit onto the eyelid so that the foundation doesn't move throughout the day there. Okay, now we'll go into the next step for powders, which is a little bit of bronzer to help to warm up the skin tone and blend in that contour a little bit more. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills matte bronzing powder, and this is in shade Rosewood. So I'll just go along where that contour was applied and just blend in a little bit of warmth with my bronzer here. I don't generally put it all over the skin because I don't want to wipe out all of the highlighting I just did. Be sure to start with those areas you're sculpting, and then whatever's left on the brush you can kind of sweep over the rest of the face so that it's not too dark. And then this is where I connect the face to the neck, so I bring the bronzer underneath my jaw and that sculpts that out a little bit. And then just apply a little bit extra onto the neck here. Ties the face in with the body. Lastly, if you do have natural freckles, if for some reason your foundation was blocking this out and you want to accentuate that or add them back in, you can use a little bit of eyeshadow powder or even a brow pen and go through and just add the dots back. Or you can use a little bit of makeup remover on a Q-tip and go through and just take off any foundation that might be like right on top of a freckle. Helps to just bring those out again. This is pretty much the complete look for a flawless, natural, sculpted complexion. If you need to add extra staying power, my suggestion is a setting spray, and this one's a luminous setting spray as well. Helps to give life to the skin once you have any powder on top. And this is by Morphe. I'm gonna add a little bit of this. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video helped you learn how to make a flawless complexion without having to do any of that baking or caking of the face. Please let me know how it goes and look out for my next video. Thank you. Like and subscribe.